As one of Florida's most sought after and beloved inshore fish, and my personal favorite, our star species of the week likes to ambush their prey while they hang out around piers, docks, jetties, bridges, rock piles, beaches, mangrove creeks, and canals where there's good water flow. Who wouldn't like to have a constant supply of food brought to them, especially with their large mouth and protruding lower jaw? They're fun to fight and even more fun to let go. It's time to catch snook this week on the Florida Insider Fishing Report.
Welcome to the Florida Insider Fishing Report, presented by Yamaha.
Thanks for tuning in to our second week of the Florida Insider Fishing Report. We're your hosts, Brie Gabrielle and Captain Jim Ross, who is graciously filling in for Captain Rick Murphy today. Thank you so much for being here, Jim. You're at our new studio.
I haven't seen it, but I love it. This is great. It's such a great looking set. It makes you want to get out and go fishing.
It really does. Well, Jim, I know you've got the hosting chops, so let's put them to work and talk about some snook this week. What do you say?
I'm ready for it.
I know you know snook. I know you know all about
I know
them.
one or two. My name.
Maybe a million. All right, before we get to our first captain, let's say hi to Dave at the CCA Workbench. Dave.
Yes, how you doing?
Good, how you doing?
I'm good because we're going to be talking about snook, and I love to catch them.
We're snooking today.
Yes, we are. I like to catch them on the top water, so.
Oh, me too.
We're going to talk a little bit about that.
That's a good way to catch them. All right, let's start out our Snook Fest in the Discover Crystal River Northwest region, where Captain Jeff Hageman is ready to tell you the type of ambushing techniques you'll need to ambush our species of the week. Go for it, Jeff.
Snook can be found in the lower half of my region, from about Cedar Key south is where we find them. The last couple of years has been warm, and our snook have kind of pushed a little bit further north than that, so we're starting to catch them a little bit above Cedar Key, but it's more of a by incidence thing. So most of our fish are going to be concentrated from Cedar Key south in my region, and like you just said, snook are ambush predator, and they like to sit in the tide. They like to have food brought to them, and they'll sit in behind a dock, behind piers, jetties, any kind of creek mouth, river mouth, sandbars, passes, docks, anything with good water flow, jetties, bridges, rock piles, all hold snook in our region. As far as baits go, live shrimp, sardines, pinfish, grunts are some of their favorites for live baits. As far as throwing artificials for them, jerk baits are really good, either rig weightless or on a jig head. Any kind of lips plug, topwater, walk the dock type baits work really good in that sardine color or a mullet color, anything that's going to imitate a bait fish. Snook also have great eyesight and a set of gill rakers that can slice through leaders, so a good fluorocarbon leader is a must, anywhere from 25 to 40 pounds. I've been using circle hooks lately when I'm live bait fishing, and I'm able to lighten up my leader a little bit because you always get them in the corner of the mouth, and you can kind of get away from them fraying in the mouth. You can't really get away from that gill raker if they turn you wrong, but it'll help you get your leader size a little small if you've got some finicky snook that you're trying to get to bite and you can't get them to bite. Also, another thing we do on our coast is we chum a lot with fresh sardines and live sardines. We'll actually put them in a half cut out wiffle ball bat and pitch them out there and chum them up and get them in a feeding frenzy and get them feeding and get them popping on top. And nothing quite gets your blood pumping like snook popping on top. Moving inshore and staying inshore, Captain Jim Huddleston of CaptainHud.com reports out of the Ozona Fish Camp. The redfish bite's been strong on these high tides around Mangrove Islands, oyster bars, in St. Joseph Sound. Using greenbacks under a cork with 25-pound test fluorocarbon leader to help prevent some breakoffs. You want to fish really close to the trees, and that float helps you get that presentation where you know exactly where your bait is against the mangroves on those flood tides. Also, cut chunked ladyfish and mullet works really good. Just a number 4 split shot real close to the hook. Pitch that right underneath will also help you get those redfish out from underneath the overhangs. Moving up north a little bit, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing his name right, Captain Louis Argio of Florida Fishing Adventures out of Ozella Keys Marina and Crystal River reports right now his redfish bite's been on the outermost St. Martin Keys from Ozona to the top of the incoming tide, throwing live pinfish in the current edges along the mangroves. Fish get fired up in this great action right now all along those mangrove edges right there in St. Martin Key. He's using a small to medium-sized pinfish with 3 feet, a 20-pound fluorocarbon leader, and a 3/0 circle hook. Got a couple photos here, one of a nice Ozola redfish, and the other one is a nice fish from Ozona.
Cute.
Nice ones. Well, let's swing offshore and see what's going on.
Captain Rob Davenport of BigNastyCharters.com out of St. Pete reports a great red grouper bite right now, and anywhere from 110 to 120 feet of water over flat rock, Swiss cheese bottom. He's using cut squid and cut sardines, and the occasional pinfish is hard to beat too. Knocker rigs and standard bottom rigs are being both equally effective, and I've got a great photo here of a nice West Coast grouper.
Ooh, that's a pretty one.
Portrait mode, though.
Staying offshore, Captain Jimmy Huddleston of Huddleston.com reports at a Ozona fish camp, the good mangrove snapper bite continues to be strong as schools set up on most of the public reefs and lakes inside of 3 miles. Using shrimp or smaller sardines on 20-pound fluorocarbon leader with a 1/0 hook and a larger split shot pinched just about a foot above the leader to keep that bait in the zone.
Well, thanks for kicking us off. What a great report that was, Jeff, from the northeast region, and northwest region, and we are going to check the hot spots right now. The redfish bite is on the top of the tides. Cut baits have been most effective, fished around the oyster bars. And then offshore, the gag grouper bite has been really good in 90 to 180 feet of water over rock piles and ledges, and you want to use a hand-sized pinfish for bait out there.
Jim, how long has it been since you've co-hosted with me?
It's been a couple of years
what, like
now.
3 or 4 years?
Yeah.
You're just like
Well,
riding the
thank
bike,
you.
picking up where you left off.
Hopefully so.
All right,
Hopefully
you
so.
are. Up next, we're fishing the STARTRON Central West region where snook is plentiful and booming. So let's listen to Captain Jeff Page's report to see where we should target this weekend. Hey, Jeff.
Hey, you guys, doing a good job there, Jimmy.
Oh, thank you, Jeff.
So, you know, our snook fishing in the STARTRON Central West region starts and begins with all our inlets and passes. Starting to the north end, up by John's Pass, down to Passage Key and Anna Maria, and then right on down the coast as you get down to Venice Jetties, Stump Pass and Englewood, and then, of course, Boca Grande Pass. 90% of our snook fishing from spring to late summer, your bigger fish, your more consistent fish are going to be somewhere near our inlets. They may meander down the beach a little, or they may be on grass flats just inside the pass. But like you guys have already touched on, they like that current, and they like, Hag said it, the food being brought to them. So that's one of the reasons they like to stay in that pass. Now down the beach, we have a lot of structure, anywhere from rock piles that people have put in their backyards to down trees, and then, you know, a little bit off the beach, some flat limestone rock. Snook love to hold on that stuff in the warmer months, that being April through November. And now inside our bays and estuaries, from down south around Turtle Bay and Bull Bay, all the oyster bars and mangrove shorelines, you can start on the low tide and stay off them, and then as the tide comes in, you can work your way right up to the oyster bars and the mangrove shorelines, throwing topwater plugs, or you can throw a soft plastic like a saltwater assassin 4-inch dyed apper in the Houdini pattern rigged on an 1/8-ounce silver jig head. Live pilchard's probably the #1 bait. I heard Hag mention grunts, pinfish. If I'm using those, I like to hook them in the rear end so that they swim down. The pilchard, he'll stay up top, but you can cork him, or sometimes you can nip his tail off, and that will help keep that fish from just staying right on top of the water. Nighttime snook fishing, Captain Dave Parmalu really says that's been going off these last few months, and he's been doing real well with silver mullet, and then another bait I heard earlier, chunks of ladyfish. He's been fishing all the bridges and fenders and dock lights in the south part of the region from Venice down to Englewood. I've got a couple snook photos tonight. First one of my brother who's just here visiting, Chris Page, and then my nephew Jackson Page with a big snook they caught with me on the Pathfinder. And then the second one is one of our best snook fishermen up in the north part, up by Manatee River, Captain Griffin Deans of Slot Machine Charters, with a happy young angler with a big Manatee River snook.
Boy, that sure is. How's your trout bite this week, Jeff?
That's my next species, trout fishing. A lot of fish were out on the beach, Jimmy, in January and February, where they've pushed in with the bait schools, and they're holding on grass flats anywhere from the middle grounds, which is just inside New Pass, north to the flats off front of Emerson Point, and that's just inside Anna Maria, and then down south on the Cape Hayes flats, just inside Charlotte Harbor. The key to all of them is current, which we are having some weak tides this week, but as we get into the weekend, we're going to be getting a lot stronger tides. Those fish like to move up on top of the flats, where it's a good place to throw topwater plugs or suspending baits. But my favorite new topwater plug is the J Walker 100 made by Berkeley, and I like it in that chrome pattern. Got a real nice trout photo tonight of our Rick and my good friend Dylan McDonald, and if you look in the background, that's his dad, Mike McDonald, and they were out with me. I think it was Sunday. Moving offshore, first species, we've got the kingfish, and the kingfish bite still remains the mainstay for a lot of our guides. They're getting their thread fins, they're getting their pinfish, and they're getting out on that beach and just looking for any bird action. It can be a half mile off the beach to 6 or 7 miles off, but it's been pretty predictable as long as the weather remains the same. They're also keying in on big muds from schools of thread fins. And when you find those big muds, you're going to get kingfish, mackerel, bonita, and sharks. It's a good idea to use some light wire and have a variety of baits and have rods ready to pitch at other stuff, because there's a lot of species out there. My final, Mike, I do have a kingfish photo tonight of Captain Kevin Wessel and a happy client aboard his new T-Craft. And my last species, red grouper. Guys are really scoring good on red grouper in 110 to 130 feet of water. They've been using a mixture of frozen bait, which like sardines, etc., and then they've been bringing some live bait like pinfish, grunts, and big horse pilchards. Standard bottom rigs apply, and the average grouper's been 12 or 13 pounds, but my last photo tonight is from Captain Tim No, and that's a big old red fire truck that they got out with Tim last week.
If you know, you know.
Yeah, I'm telling you. I tell you what, you guys on the West Coast get some beautiful red grouper. Yes. We get a few on the East Coast, but God, you guys really do a great job with them. Thanks for the great report, Jeff. We're going to take over from here and see your hot spots for your region. The Central West region by Daiquiri Deck is sponsored, as the sponsor is the Snook on your inshore bite. You want to fish all the dock lights and bridge fenders from Blackbird Point Bridge up to Venice Circus Bridge. You want to use live ladyfish, silver mullet, or a lipped plug, especially around those fenders on an outgoing tide. Kingfish, big mackerel are holding on the nearshore reefs off Anna Maria right now. Live thread fins are your best bait. You can also use trolled spoons or lipped diving plugs to get those fish out there, Brie.
All right, Jim, the East region is in our sights next, but first we're seeing what rigging and techniquing Dave is educating us with at the CCA Workbench. Dave, what you got for us?
Well, I've got everything. That's the problem with Snook, you know. They'll eat just about anything.
That's not a problem or a good problem.
But they're not that easy to catch sometimes.
No, they're pretty tricky.
You think they eat everything, and they don't.
All right, we'll be back.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Contender Boats, always in the game. Fenwick. SiriusXM Marine. Weather, fishing mapping, entertainment. Penn, let the battle begin. Stiffy, innovators in shallow water performance. And Daiquiri Deck, Sarasota's favorite place to meet.
Reliability. Yamaha is known for it. And it's something boaters value, because these days, few things are built to last. When we find something that is, we hold on to friendships, traditions, outboards. Because every second on the water is sacred. If you count on having this time, you need an outboard you can count on to power it. That's why boaters choose Yamaha for the long run, for life, because reliability starts here.
What started in the flats and bays has migrated offshore. GPS-guided trolling motor technology has moved to boats in the 35-plus foot class and allowed anchoring capabilities on most center consoles in any depth of water. From snook and redfish inshore to grouper and swordfish way out deep, Rodan Marine Systems has a GPS anchor to hold your vessel on location. Set it, forget it, catch more fish.
Every year, Noble Air Charter flies over 20,000 outdoorsmen and families just like you economically to over 300 Bahamian and Florida destinations. Noble Air Charter makes a substantial investment improving booking and aircraft route planning to create the most affordable and economical flight possible. And tomorrow, Noble Air's team will rise to the challenge to raise the bar yet again.
Well, we're here at the CCA Workbench, the Academy Sports Rigs and Techniques, and I've got a lot of stuff on this table. And everything on this table will catch a snook if they're there and wanting to eat it.
At one time or another, they will definitely catch a snook.
You know, snook is one of the most popular game fish in Florida because mainly you can't really catch them outside of Florida. You might be able to catch one in Georgia every once in a great while. Texas has a couple way down there south. But Florida is the place to catch a snook if you want to catch a snook. And we got a lot of them, and they get pretty big. Yeah. You know, the big females come into the inlets every summertime, and we close our season off so you can't keep any during the summer because we know that those girls get in there.
Let them spawn.
Yeah, they got to let them do their business, and they're very susceptible to fishing when they're stacked up in the inlet like that because they're hungry and, you know, especially at the beginning of the season, they're wanting to bulk up, you know.
They get so aggressive, too, when they start spawning. You know, the males in particular are jockeying for position around that female, and they want to push that other guy out of the way. And if something comes in there, they're like, oh, I'm going to get that thing out of here because it's way smaller than me.
Right.
That's when these lures come in.
Right. Well, really, you know, they're big ambush predators like we've been talking about, and they like those inlets for dispersing their eggs, and also, like we've been saying, it brings fish to them. And when they'll get behind something, just like a trout, or even like Ray said the other day, the sailfish. All fish like to point into the current.
Yeah.
You know, they put their nose into the current and let things come to them. They don't like to use a lot of their energy. And what we try to do is we try to put baits and or lures in a position where they want to eat it, you know. And that usually means pretty close to the bottom. Now, when I was a kid growing up, that thing right there, this chartreuse bomber, the long A, was the king. You know, if you wanted to catch snook in Sebastian Inlet, you had to throw that at night on the tide change if you're going to catch them on artificials. And, you know, a lot of guys will take this front hook off because when you're fishing in Sebastian Inlet and a lot of these inlets, there's a lot of rocks and stuff. And you want that thing bouncing on the bottom. And this front hook will sometimes grab the bottom on you. And you can still get plenty of bites and catch plenty with just that one hook on there.
Oh, definitely. The other thing that's nice about a lipped plug is it'll go down, it'll hit whatever you're saying it will hit. Let's just say a rock or even sand if you're just on an open sandy beach. And it digs for a second, and then it rolls to the side and
flashes
and deflects, and then it starts to right itself. And mullet naturally do that anyway. You'll see mullet rub, and right about the time that it deflects and then it starts to come up and right itself, all of a sudden it stops. And it stopped for a reason. It's in a fish's mouth, and that's the time to set the hook.
That's the thud that we're looking for, you know. And they'll eat a snook. You know, we've been you're hearing these guys talk. Well, going through all the list of things they'll eat. They love to eat little fish, obviously. You know, fish is their main thing. But they will eat crabs. They'll eat dead bait. They'll eat a chunk of ladyfish on the bottom, a mullet head. You know, they can be very opportunistic at certain times, and other times you can't get them to eat anything. You're looking right at them, and you're wondering why they're not eating. Usually the tide hasn't changed or something like that. A big shrimp, you know, around dock lights in the summertime is a live shrimp. That's a dead one, obviously. I mean, a rubber one. But now, you know, you cast up on a green light, you know, and let that thing float with the current. Whoop.
Now, are you a head hook guy or are you a tail hook guy?
You know, whatever the guide that I'm with tells me to do. You know, I usually hook them in the tail if I'm by myself.
Right.
Because I just like that, you know, especially if I'm using a jig. If I'm using a jig head, I always hook them in the tail. If I'm using just a plain hook and I'm free lining them with a live bait hook, a real light live bait hook, because I don't want the shrimp to change. You know, a shrimp isn't this powerful, you know, bait. So I don't want to put something real heavy in his head that's going to make him swim weird. You know, so I use a light hook and I'll put it right underneath his horn.
The key is making sure that it looks natural, exactly as you're saying.
Right.
That shrimp, if it looks odd, they don't necessarily like that. They want it to look natural. And so keel, a keel hooked, coming in from the bottom and out the top, hook. So if it's in the shrimp like so, like that, that allows him to swim naturally. Or like you say, on a lighter current scenario or no current scenario, you want to tail hook him. And that very last segment of the tail is the hardest piece on a shrimp. So you put it in that very last segment. You see a lot of guys will put it up in here. That's not where you want it.
No,
you want it
all the
back
way in the
here,
back.
and then let the shrimp swim, and then you give it little twitches to move.
The
Now what about, I was going to say, artificial flare hawks.
I want to talk real quick about the flare hawks. We don't have much time, but these are really popular around the bridges and the inlets at night. Again, these things need to be hugging the bottom. You want to cast up current, let it hit the bottom, and then just wind it along the bottom, and give it a couple of jigs with the reel. You don't have to really do any of the stuff with the rod, because if you're doing it with the reel the whole time, especially with braid, you'll feel every bump and nick. When you start lifting the rod and getting slack in it, you'll lose a lot of those thumps right when you weren't expecting it. But if you've always got tension with the reel and that thing's connecting with the bottom, you will feel that thump.
And we got a couple seconds left. You talked about topwater, and one of my favorites is the chug bug. And
that's my favorite everything.
I like a chrome with a chartreuse back on it for snook in particular. But these little chug bugs work really good, and you use it as well.
Yeah, I love them for snook, trout. Everything eats the chug bug. So
everything eats the chug bug. Great job, Dave. Appreciate it.
No worries.
Thanks for the knowledge. We're going to throw it back over to Brie and see what's going on in the next region.
Absolutely. All right, the Fish Bites East region has snook, and joining us is Captain Holiday. Tell us about that spring mullet run, Mike.
Well, April is when the mullet schools start to bunch up, and that's got the snook fired up in the Loxahatchee, in the St. Lucie River, and also up around Taylor Creek and Fort Pierce. You want to start your day working the seawalls with topwater plugs or saltwater assassin dye dappers, or even saltwater shads in any of the mullet colors. As the sun gets up, switch over to a live mullet pitched up tight to the walls. There's also been a good nighttime bite at South Bridge in Fort Pierce and around the Turning Basin in Fort Pierce. Those fish are eating live shrimp on the jig head during the outgoing tides, and then when it switches to the incoming tides, an R&R flare hawk jig in that chartreuse if the water's dirty, or white if the water's clean. That's working really well. Look for the first wave of small snook to move into the inlets in this next full moon. You can target those fish with a copper juice colored 4-inch sea shad, and the average snook in my region is going to be anywhere from 5 to 15 pounds. I got a photo. That's Reagan Snyder with a big snook that she caught in the Indian River near Fort Pierce. She was fishing with Captain Greg Snyder, and that fish ate a topwater plug.
Beautiful fish, Mike.
Well, April is when the spotted sea trout start to spawn. So the large female fish are up in the shallows feeding on mullet. They're eating pinfish, sand perch, shrimp, whatever's available. The big trout are most active right at first light. So you want to get an early start, work the shallow, sandy potholes, and around the Spoil Islands in St. Lucie County from about Bear Point all the way up into Indian River County and the Mooring Flat. Don't overlook Queens Cove and Dynamite Point, because a lot of really, really big fish come from those shorelines, including the world record. For baits, you can throw anything from a topwater plug to a drunk monkey or Houdini-colored saltwater shad, or even a light beer-colored saltwater assassin shrimp cocktail. Live baits like pilchard, sand perch, pinfish, and shrimp under a rattle cork are money on those fish during the daytime. Average sea trout's going to be 1 to 4 pounds in my region, but fish to 9 pounds have been caught this week.
Beautiful fish. Let's swing offshore.
Well, the cool weather over Easter shut down that kingfish bite, but the fish are back, and they're hungry, and they're locked in on the bait schools that are out 50 to 90 feet of water right now. The best action has been around the sand pile off Stewart, around the 6 Mile Reef, the Loran Tower Ledge, and the edge off Jupiter. So basically, between Stewart and northern Palm Beach County. On the west winds, the Kingfish Hole in Hook Sound and the Vero Cove both have some really big fish on them. Not a lot, but that's where you're going to find your 40-pounder. Live or dead sardines are the hot baits, if you can find them. But, pilchards, threadfins, blue runners, and goggle eyes are going to work really well. In a pinch, you can rig a rig ballyhoo down on a planer, or you can pull a rigged ribbon fish with good success. A lot of the kings are in that 8 to 12 pound range. but there are some bigger fish up to 40 pounds in my region right now. The other thing we got going, April is pretty late for cobia in the East region, but we've had a good week for cobia out in 60 to 110 feet of water from Hope Sound all the way north to Bethel Shoals. A lot of the fish that are being caught are coming off the reefs and wrecks, and they're being caught by the anglers who are targeting snapper on the bottom. There's also been some fish caught the last few days on leatherback turtles and the occasional fish on a shark at the sand pile. There's not a lot of fish up on top right now that you can sight cast. So what you want to do is just drift along over the reefs with a live threadfin or a pilchard or a whole squid on a 6/0 trocar circle hook and anywhere between 40 and 60 pound fluorocarbon leader. It pays to have a pitch bait ready at all times because a lot of times they'll reel a snapper up to the surface and a cobia will follow it up. Average cobia right now is 15 to 30 pounds, but there are some bigger fish. Here's a good one here. That's Phil Boss with a nice cobia he caught. He was fishing with Captain Scott Fawcett out of Stewart, and that fish ate a live redfin.
Wow, that's a beautiful fish.
He looks happy.
Yeah, I wish we had a couple more of that size up in the Central East region, so hopefully they're on their way. Mike, set us up for the bass report. What do we need to do to go bass fishing and be successful this week?
Well, right now, Headwaters Lake, also known as the Fellsmere Reservoir, it's still one of the hottest bass lakes in the country if you know how to fish it. Guys are having 30 fish days, guys are having 4 fish days. A big key is to get an early start. The ramp's crowded even during the week. And although there's plenty of overflow parking, you want to try and get on the water before the sun comes up. At first light, prop baits, buzz baits, and spinner baits, they're working along the edges of the grass. And then as the sun gets up, you want to look for those fish busting on the edges of the hydrilla mats. The guys who are doing best on the big fish are throwing frogs way up in the grass on 50-pound braid and working them out, or they're working a Carolina rig June bug colored worm around the edges of the submerged hydrilla. You can also fish the deeper holes on the western side of the impoundment with live shiners. Right now it's a 30 fish day on shiners with bass up to 8 pounds, and the average fish is really nice, 3 to 5 pounds.
Well, I'll tell you what, that's a fantastic bass report, and I'll take over from here with your hot spots for the East region. Mike says inshore, flounder on the Jensen Beach Causeway, use shrimp or mullet on a jig head or a white curly tail jig on that jig head. And offshore, mutton snapper on the 80-foot reefs off Palm Beach. Use grunt plugs, pilchards, or sardines for bait.
That cobia, that was nice.
That was a chunk.
I have not caught a big cobia like that in a long time.
It's been a while for me too.
That big. That was a good one. All right, get snookered this summer and you might win a Piranha boat, Yamaha motor, and trailer from Piranha Boat Works. Just catch a legal snook anywhere in Florida, take a photo with the West Marine measuring device, and enter it in the CCA Florida Star competition presented by Yamaha. It's not the biggest fish that has the opportunity to win. Winners are drawn from all the entries. The Star competition begins Memorial Day weekend with 100 days of fishing, inshore and offshore divisions, and $500,000 in prizes and scholarships. But Jim, you have to be a CCA member and entered in the competition to win both of those at the same time. Get registered today at ccaflstar.com.
You won't regret it.
You won't regret it. Especially if you're a member and you're registered.
Yes.
Then you really won't regret it. All right, Floridians, get your gear ready because we're heading to the Real Legends Southwest and Central East regions when we return right here on the Florida Insider Fishing Report. And we'll be right back.
I'm looking forward to it.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Power Pole, Total Boat Control, Berkeley, your fish, our science, Bajío, fresh eyes for a rich life, Blue Water Outriggers, everything for your outdoor adventure, R&R Tackle, from our tackle box to yours, Florida Coast Equipment, Florida's largest Kubota dealer. Visit one of our 4 locations or online at floridacoasteq.com. And Garmin, plot your paradise.
An entirely new species of extreme predator is moving offshore. The Yamaha 5.6-liter V8 XTO offshore outboard. Extreme big block thrust and power in the industry's first direct injection 4-stroke. Quiet, efficient, powerful, and proven Yamaha reliability. More than an outboard, it's a fully integrated power system. The all-new Yamaha V8 XTO offshore.
Legends Performance Clothing. Everything you need to be comfortable on the water all day long. Keeps you cool, dry, and protected from the sun. Durable performance technology at an unbeatable value. Shop anytime or go to reallegends.com to find a Bell store near you. The only reel with over 100 years of heritage. ALVEY Sidecast reels allow you to cast over 150 yards with up to 900 yards of capacity. ALVEY's state-of-the-art drag and 22-inch retrieve rate per wind is perfect for any surf challenge. ALVEY reels are manufactured to best practice standards and are in fact so robust that the ALVEY also comes with a 10-year salt and sand warranty. For more information, go to alveus.com.
Vagabond dreaming takes me through the night, sipping whiskey by the river, living out of sight. 100 miles an hour in the fast lane, 100 miles an hour toward the light. And in the morning when the sun does come, 100 miles an hour in the fast lane, 100 miles an hour in the fast lane, 100 miles an hour till I'm done.
What a beautiful video. From the top to the bottom, everyone who is involved in Bahia Sunglasses are fishermen and outdoorsmen. Yeah. And the one thing that's important to us is that we understand the needs of both inshore and offshore fishermen. And our plan is to make sure that we support all of the conservation efforts that we possibly can. So when it comes to the product, we're going to stand behind it so that everyone is completely satisfied. And that's why the Murphys invested in Bahia Sunglasses right behind us. So to shop and find out more information, go to bahiasunglasses.com. What do you think of that? I've got them on right now. They're looking pretty good.
Yeah, they do.
And they're eco-friendly. Okay, well, there's no question our captain from the Real Legends Southwest region knows a thing or a million and two about catching
he's caught one or
snook. So I would pay attention and take some detailed notes. Captain Ron Houston, you're up.
Well, like always, it's a pleasure being here, and especially representing the Bell Southwest region. You know, snook can be caught all through the region, and we basically try to target them on the inshore side. Now that we're coming into spring, a great place to start would be passes, beaches, bridges, and mangrove shoreline. Now, for the beginner, the easiest way to locate the snook would be chumming live pilchards in the areas I have mentioned, especially where there's currents involved. Let the baits drift, and the fish will show themselves by simply power pulling down or anchoring up on a shoreline where current. Put the baits out. If the snook are in the area, they will show themselves. But you can also catch them on live pinfish, and finger mullet will work as well, either under a cork, free lined, or on a knocker rig, and I like doing that a lot, especially up in the northern end of the region. Now, another way to locate them is at night. Intercoastal docks and seawalls due to the city lights, as well as dock lights, and they will feed good with moving water, and you will see these fish. That's another easy way to locate them. But the most important thing is tide. Water movement matters, okay? When it comes to leaders, 40 to 60 pound fluoro, and I particularly like the diamond fluoro in pink. And when I'm out snook fishing, I won't use anything less than 40, depending upon how close I am to the structures I'm fishing. You can also catch them on a variety of flies, as well as soft plastics and hard bait. Artificial shrimp around docks and seawalls at night work very well. But two favorite colors in the plastic soft paddle tails for me would be white and root beer, like the 4-inch Bass Assassin Sea Shad 4-inch. And probably one of my favorite ways to catch snook is going to be the top water walk the dog lures. My favorite colors are going to be bone, chartreuse, and chrome, especially in the off season with all the work I've done with the Berkeley hijacker, which you'll hear all throughout the season. I've got a picture of a nice snook that was just recently caught while fishing with Joe Casaro at a Goodland in the Marco Island area. So right now, guys, a great time to start snook fishing, and they are feeding. Second inshore species is going to be the redfish. Captain Brian Sanders to the south in the Everglades region tells me the outer Gulf Islands from Indian Key to Bird Key have been producing numbers of redfish. The tide he's telling me is the last half of the incoming to the first half of the outgoing. and he's either freelining or knuckle-rugging strictly live pilchard. But Captain Danny Latham to the north also says the redfish bite has been good in the areas of the east wall from Alligator to Two Pines. He's telling me the better stages have been the higher stage of the tide, and he's strictly chumming live pilchards. Or in the heat of the day, you can use cut baits like ladyfish, mullet, and pinfish. But he also tells me topwater walk the dog lures have been particularly productive the first couple hours in the morning, and he's telling me in calm areas. And I have a picture of a nice redfish that was recently caught down in the southern end while fishing in the Everglades with Captain Brian Sanders. Now, on the offshore side, the permits. Southern end of the region right now, from Goodland to Fort Myers Beach, the bite is slowly picking up, especially with the passing of the front we have with the winds 25 to 30 knots. Bite's picking up. Towers, wrecks, artificial reefs, as close as 5 miles and out to 25 miles, looking for fish on top or strictly anchoring up. But then you can also make several drifts across the structure, freelining live crabs by just adding a little weight or freelining to figure out where they are on the water column. Fish have been feeding well if you got the live crabs. I got a picture of a nice permit also cut down on the southern end while fishing with Captain Brian Sanders. Now, the last species is going to be the triple tail. You know, with the winds we had last week, there are a variety of ways to catch the triple tails. The nearshore wrecks from Sanibel to Marco, the head pins, and the beach lines, also targeting swim buoys and crab pots. But from Marco to Everglades National Park, park boundary markers, crab pots, and nearshore structure out to 8 miles, also holding fish. Now, the best way to catch these fish right now is sight casting with live shrimp or pilchards. Are strongly recommended 2.0 to 3.0 Tokar circle hook, split shot, or on a jig head. And I got a picture of some nice triple tails I was just caught, again, down in the southern end while fishing with Captain Brian Sanders. Right now, the weather looks good for the weekend, not like it was last weekend. So, guys, get out, take mom and dad fishing, or even take the kids fishing.
Hey, Ron, real quick, since tonight's species is snook, and obviously those are some beautiful triple tail pictures, but since it's a snook night, what are, they call you guys, you and your brother, the Midnight Riders. What do you guys do at night specifically when you're targeting snook that really makes the difference between catching and not catching?
Well, basically, when I'm out on the water at night fishing for snook, generally there's really not too many people out here running the waters at night. So right now, there's no pressure at night. A lot of people on the water right now, but basically when I'm fishing at night, I'm using crank baits and rattling baits and large swim baits fishing outer Gulf points, anywhere from Lossman's River up to Goodland. Right now is the time to start, and with all the fishing pressure that we have on the water right now, very rare you'll see me trying to catch a big snook during the day. Coming up on these next couple moons, I'll be fishing at night.
Fantastic. That's an awesome tip there for the guys in the Southwest region. And actually, that will work just about anywhere.
And to beat the heat, summer's coming, you know?
Yeah. Just remember, wear your bug spray.
Yeah.
Because they can get bad. Thanks, Ron. Awesome report. We're going to take it from here with your Caddy Can hotspots for the Southwest region. Trout from Wooden Key to Devilfish Key in depths of 2 to 4 feet using noise-making corks with a soft plastic lure or a live pilchard under it. And then offshore, those red grouper. Golly, I wish we got more red grouper in the Central East region. But Goodland to Wiggins Pass, 45 to 55 miles offshore on hard bottom using cut squid, herring, sardines, and make sure you use between about a 6 and 9 ounce weight depending on what the current is, Brie.
Perfect. Well, you may not have red grouper, but you know what? It's time for you now. Real Legends, Central East Regioners. We have your captain right here live in the studio. So Jim, why don't you go ahead and tell us what we're catching this weekend?
Well, it's snook, and I love my snook. That's one of my favorite species to target. They're just, they're just as good as they can get. And I'll tell you what, the best way I like to catch those things is to sit there on a jetty or a pier and definitely make sure that you've got some live bait with you, especially in the daytime. That's when you want to find those fish sitting right next to those rocks, right next to those jetties, and just wait. Just simply wait for that fish to show up and decide he wants to eat. Then, if you're looking at night, there's no better place to fish at night than Sebastian Inlet. They really get a lot of snook at that inlet. And flare hawk jigs, lip diving plugs like Dave was talking about at the CCA workbench, especially something with some chartreuse on it, that really seems to get those fish keyed off. So, in the Real Legends region, Central East region, those are the key places that we find our big snook, is at those inlets. Now, not to say that you can't find them around Spoil Islands and Wabasso, Grant, all up and down the Indian River. Not to say you can't catch them at Ponce Inlet around the North and South Jetty or around the North and South Bridges in New Smyrna. Great places to target those fish. But Sebastian has this mystique about being the snook fishing place to be on the East Coast, and there's more snook there than probably any place else in my region. So we do have a picture here of some nice fish. Right now, most of our fish are running 34 to 40 inches in my region. And this fish right here was one that we caught the other day with one of my guys that we had out right there in Port Canaveral using a live pilchard on that fish.
Not bad.
Yeah.
Looking good.
My second species is black drum, and of course, you know, our region is becoming more and more known for drum and less for redfish. They seem to be adapting for the habitat, the way our habitat is changing, and we've lost a lot of our seagrass. So these fish have become much more targetable, and we've got a lot more of them than we've ever had in the past. You want to look for these things around any kind of hard structure, rocks, ledges, spoil islands, docks, bridge pilings, anything that's hard that can hold crabs or shrimp on it. These fish like to congregate around. And you can also find them out on the flats in the Mosquito Lagoon. Most of the fish around the bridges are running 15 to 30 pounds right now. And actually I was talking with Captain Troy Perez the other day. He found a school in the Mosquito Lagoon that was running up to 40 pounds. They were hitting cut crab that he was pitching into the school and actually sight casting to those fish.
That's fun.
Got another picture here of a real nice black drum that we got just the other day in the Banana River with one of my guys, so and his grandson.
They're such a fun fight.
They're a blast.
Yeah.
Now, swinging offshore, it's not really necessarily an offshore species, but right now in my region it is, because the redfish are really picking up, and those big bull reds are along the beaches and outside the passes in those nearshore waters. Look for bait pods. You're going to find the best numbers of fish around any kind of a bait pod, but you can use cut ladyfish, cut Spanish mackerel, silver trout, croakers, any kind of cut bait or live bait on the bottom. Rig it just with a standard slide and sinker rig, and most of those fish are running in about 10 to about 25 feet of water, especially around the Cape Canaveral area. Most of our fish are running 36 to 43 inches, which is roughly 16 to 23 pounds right now. I've got a redfish photo. One of the things that this photo is going to talk about or lead us into, do you see how beat up that fish is?
Yeah.
He's destroyed, right? Looks like somebody took a chainsaw to him. The sharks are really bad in my region right now, and this is what's happening to a lot of the redfish that are out there just swimming around. The sharks are beating on them. So if you get one like this, just be real gentle with it, get it back in the water so that it can, you know, survive. Now, that is my final species, is the sharks. And right now, that is the most consistent species in my region. We have spinner sharks, black tips, fine tooth, sharp nose, you name it, we've got them. We've even got some hammerheads in the region right now. Most of the time, these fish are gonna be there from about 66 to 72 degrees of water, and definitely, you know, use some kind of piece of wire, a circle hook or a J hook. If you're using a J hook, just make sure that you can have a long enough, you know, retrieving tool that you can get it back out of them. Right now, most of our sharks are running 4 to 6 feet and 40 to 80 pounds. And I've got a picture of a hammerhead shark here that my son Justin had the other day. Or did we get that picture? We didn't get that picture up. So
I'm sure it was a great one.
It was awesome. It was awesome.
Sharks are always cool to look at. Well, Jim, you did a good job. I think we should take a look at your Rodan hotspots for the Central East region. What do you think?
Sounds like a plan to me.
All right, go for it.
Hey gang, this week Spanish mackerel in the nearshore waters and around the inlets. You can fish with small spoons, flies, or gotcha plugs. Anything that imitates a glass minnow is going to work. And then offshore, yellowfin tuna on the eastern side of the Gulf Stream. For those of you guys that can get over there, man, the trolling bite is hot right now. You're stacking the numbers up. You can control ballyhoo, you control lures. Look for the birds and find those feeding fish, and then get way out in front of them with your lines and you will catch them.
You know what, Jim? I think we'll keep you. I think we'll keep them, guys. You're looking pretty good in your Real Legends. I've got my bright Real Legends gear on today. And ladies and gentlemen, this is for you, so listen up. Now through April 13th, shop short sleeve and solid Freeline shirts for only $9.99 at reallegends.com. You gotta go stock up for that Florida summer sun. It's a good deal right there.
That's a great deal.
Yes, it is. All right, we're getting excited for the weekend ahead, but there's more coming at you, including the Garmin Panhandle region and Dave at the CCA Workbench showing off his shopping abilities for Taka Marine new products. Go ahead and flex those new product muscles, Dave.
Yeah, watch this.
Oh, flexing. I love new water.
Look at that.
Oh.
Look at that.
Wasn't expecting that.
Oh, and I can clean it up. I got a thing to clean it too.
Dave, you never have things to clean.
I know.
All right, we'll be back.
You're right. He's good at making messes.
He's good.
That was awesome though.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Have fun out there. Penn, let the battle begin. Alta Equipment Company, where uptime matters. Ameritrail, load, launch, relax. Rodan, set it, forget it, catch more fish. Discover Crystal River, Florida. Bass Assassin and Saltwater Assassin. Best lures, period. And Maverick Boat Group, makers of premium boat brands Maverick, Hughes, Pathfinder, and Cobia.
Yamaha's reputation for saltwater reliability is driven by the 4.2-liter V6 Offshore's 97% reliability and overall performance. Reimagined with new advantages like built-in digital electric steering for incredible responsiveness and exhaust rerouting for more powerful reverse thrust. The legacy of the reliable Yamaha 4.2-liter V6 continues, now more refined and capable than ever. Yamaha, reliability starts here.
GARMIN Live Scope, I tell you right now, if you don't have it, you are behind. It's just wild. It's like a video game.
If you do not have that GARMIN Live Scope, you are definitely missing out.
Bassmaster Classic Champion!
It's one of the most ancient forms of hide-and-seek known to man. And nobody knows how to play the fishing game better than the backcountry guides and offshore captains of the Florida Keys and Key West. Ready or not, here we come.
Well, Dave, we're at the CCA workbench for the Taco Marine new product segment of the show, and we've got all kinds of great stuff this week.
Yep, we're going to start over there with some of those Z-Man Eye Strike chatter, from Chatterbait. Yeah. They're pretty cool. You can buy a Chatterbait with all the skirts on it and everything, but you can also buy them like this with raw. So you can put whatever kind of trailer you want on there. You can get you a nice Bass Assassin or a Saltwater Assassin and put any kind of trailer you want on there, from a crawdad to a paddle tail to, a curly tail even. And that, stainless steel blade up in the front really gives that whole thing a ton of motion. It's connected directly to the head, so that whole thing vibrates and shakes like crazy, and fish can't stand it when that happens, man. They really jump on that buzz,
Yeah, when you have an aggressive fish bite going on,
right.
And this thing looks like a train wreck going through the water.
Yes, it does.
I mean, it's wiggling, it's buzzing, it's knocking, it's clanging.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of commotion going on. Great for dirty water as well.
Yep, they come in 4 and 5 aughts, size hooks, and then also a quarter, 3/8, and a half ounce. So they make them pretty big. Also, they got the 3D eyes and all that on those other ones. But the little willow blade there, it's the quarter ounce and an 8 and 3/8 ounce. It's a little smaller bait. But again, it's the same kind of deal. That willow blade, though, actually vibrates even faster and back and forth faster than the big blade over there on the other ones.
Interesting.
So, yeah, I mean, you can put, like I said, you could even put a dead shrimp on there and run that, and I know it would get just crushed.
A piece of fish bites even.
Probably, yes, sir. Anyway, check those out at Z-Man. Next, we got the Bagley. These are flat balsa, the flat balsa B2s. When I was a little kid, I always wanted that Bagley shad. That was the thing. Yeah. I trolled that thing. I casted it. I caught so many fish on the Bagley shad. It was a heartbreaker the day I lost it. And these come in 8 colors. They're ideal for pulling big fish off their structure. They got that square bill and that big profile, so you can knock them off stuff, wood or rocks or wherever you're fishing. You keep them out of the weeds, and they're not very good for the weeds. But if you're in a place where there's nice hard bottom, and you can run it right through some stumps and whatnot. They will crush. They're through wired all the way through. They're made out of balsa wood still to this day. You know, it's a highly commercial balsa that's compressed, heat compressed, so that's incredibly hard. And like I said, it's through wired, so it's not going to come apart.
Now, do you know what is the significance of the flat-sided baits like these are versus the round baits?
Well, it's just it's a profile, and you're not adding a whole lot of weight. Okay. So, you know, that thing will stay and it'll stay up on top and won't sink as fast.
Maybe have a little
it's more
tighter
buoyant,
wiggle.
and it's very tight.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah.
And plus it adds to the profile. You know, those flat sides, it's a huge profile up there.
Gotcha.
So, anyway, try that out. It's 2 3¼ inches and weighs 3/8 of an ounce of it.
Got some things to pick up spilt water with.
Correct. You know, we call them chamois. They're not chamois. These are a water absorber, the ultimate water absorber from Starbright, because it's probably not made out of a sheep like a chamois is. So, yeah. But you know, this is an ultimate water absorber. It's lint-free. It's resistant to chemicals, mold and mildew. You know, it'll pick up anything. And, you know, if you've got a nice boat or you want to keep it that way, you can lay it down for your guests to step on as a little rug, or, you know, a little carpet before they get on the boat. You know, there's just a million uses of this thing. Plus, when it gets dirty, you can throw it in the wash machine.
Yeah.
And wash it off.
Oh, and it comes in it comes in these little carrying packs. You don't really think about keeping that a lot of times. Guys will take it out, just kind of throw the case away.
Right.
But you can roll it up, put it right back in the case, throw it in a hatch.
Right.
Works great.
Right. Real quick here, we got the Gill Langland Technical Hoodie. And what's really cool about this thing is it's got this technically advanced exclusive system called Expel. And you saw me throw that water on there.
Yeah.
It does not take water. You know, you try to put some water on there, it rolls right off. So it's just amazing how that thing does that. But, you know, it's got a nice adjustable hoodie. It's got the big kangaroo pouch in the front. You can put both hands in.
Yeah.
You know, which is always a good thing to do. And you know, go to gillmarine.com and check it out.
It's not storm weather gear, but it'll keep you dry in a mist or a light drizzle.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Cool.
Gillmarine.com.
Good stuff.
Yep. Got a nice mess here.
Well, let's go back and see what Brie's got for us to do in the next region.
You know, I was thinking like you could go on the boat and then I could go home and be a mom and have stuff spilled on me and it would just roll right off.
Exactly. Baby spit. Baby spit up does not stick.
Baby spit up, oh Lord. All right. Well, we're going to transition into the Panhandle region and see what Captain Pat Deneen is up to this weekend. Hey, Pat.
Hey, Brie. How are you?
Feeling good?
Good, awesome. Hey, the pompano fishing up here, first off, Snook are really not a player up here in the Panhandle, but the pompano are starting to show up very good, and it happens every time of the year in springtime. They're along all of our Panhandle beaches from Cape San Blas to Pensacola. The schools are moving east to west along that first bar. They're in the gully between the first bar and the outer bar. You want to look for pinch points where the outer bar creates a funnel where it kind of comes in close to that inner bar, or look for washouts in the first bar. The serious pompano fishermen are going to be fishing off the beach with several set rods, using 2-hook chicken rigs baited with sand fleas, fish bites, and also they're using small, brightly colored floats just above the hook. And that float acts as an attractant so that the pompanos can see the color and come to it. But it also keeps the bait off the sand bottom away from the crabs. Another popular method is to sight cast them either from the shore or from a boat. You look for those dinner plate flashes and then fish your jig just off the bottom. Spring pompano, especially early fish like right now, often run on the large size. There's been some 5-pounders, some 3+ pounders caught. So, I mean, that's been a very, very good thing lately. And then just like last week, the Spanish mackerel fishing remains strong throughout the Panhandle. You're going to find them along the beaches and in the passes, but the Spanish have also moved up into the bay systems. They're being caught on the flats and edges well away from the passes. Along the beaches, troll straw rigs. It's extremely effective. But up on the flats, cast spoons, use small swimming plugs, or free line shrimp or small fin baits. You're going to want to use a trace of wire or 40-pound mono on your troll bait and a long shank hook on your live baits to minimize cutoffs. The Spanish are running 12 to 20+ inches. And then moving offshore, after several years of slow cobia season, last year was an improvement, and then this year's is looking like it's following suit, and I'm pretty hopeful that it's going to be a good year for it. They've been catching quite a few the last few days. The weather has been great for it. Typically, the cobias are going to show up along our beaches in late March as they migrate through our waters east to west. And then the migration typically ends at the end of this month or the first week or 10 days or so of May. Best conditions are sunshine, east winds, and a slight swell. Those conditions make the fish want to get up on the surface and swim the direction that they want to migrate. And also that sunshine, it makes it easier to see them. You're going to find them on the outer bar or out well past the color change. Use heavy spinning rods, 40 to 60-pound leaders. Cast jigs or live baits at these cruisers. And brightly colored jigs like chartreuse or pink are preferred. Live baits of choice are eels, pinfish, squirrelfish, mullet. Basically have a variety pack in case you find a fish that doesn't want X, Y, or Z, but it might eat, the next bait. They typically run 40 to 80 pounds, and then it looks like this next probably 4 or 5 days are going to be good conditions for it. And then finally, offshore, springtime affords some of the most dependable swordfish at either daytime or nighttime. Mainly targeted in 1,300 to 1,800 feet of water along the DeSoto Canyon and west towards the steppes. At night, drift multiple hook baits set at varying depths, typically 100 to 400 feet from the surface. During the day, target the bottom irregularities like trenches, humps, etc. Fish your baits near the bottom. Use a sacrificial weight, fine bottom, and a large weight to stay tight with your bait once you're down there. Day or night, baits of choice are live squids or large squids, bonita, belly strips, and butterfly Spanish or a similar type of finfish. Use a light above your baits to help swordfish find it, and they commonly run 60 to 100 plus pounds, but several 100-pounders are not uncommon. And like I said, right now is a very good time to be doing that.
Well, thanks, Pat. We appreciate it. I'll take it from here with your blue water outrigger hotspots for the Panhandle region. Pat says, inshore, the beaches from Walton County, you want to check them for pompano using sand fleas or jigs. And then offshore, sight cast jigs or baits to cobia, migrating west beyond the second sandbar.
Okay, Jim, when you look over here, what's the first thing you kind of notice?
Other than you?
Yeah. What do you notice? It's shiny.
I see there's a beautiful truck here.
Okay, guys, we'll be talking about it all season because who wouldn't want to win this beautiful limited edition Chevy 3100 hot rod that goes from 0 to 70 miles per hour in just seconds? Well, CCA will be raffling this beauty off at the end of the season, so make sure you head over to ccaflorida.org/hot rod for more info and to get your tickets. Captain Rick Murphy actually donated this beautiful truck behind us. I can't believe he did that.
That's astonishing.
I know. I'm like, what's going on with you, Rick? What's happening? Because it's too pretty to let go. All right, but you could win it. Coming up next on the Florida Insider Fishing Report, we're going deep into our R&R Tackle Southeast and ALVEY Reels Northeast regions with reports that will definitely get you excited to be on the water this weekend, so stay tuned. And remember to keep up with everything fishing in Florida. Make sure to pop on over to our website, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and to see new fishing adventures along with reports, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Captain Rick Murphy. See you soon.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by STARTRON, cures and prevents ethanol fuel problems. ALVEY Reels, a better way to fish. Berkeley, your fish, our science. CCA Florida, the voice of recreational anglers for over 35 years. Diamond Fishing Products, our reputation is on the line. Murphy's Law Sport Fishing. Book your trip today at murphyslawsportfishing.com. And Strike Zone Fishing.
Finding a shoreline is easy. Finding a sure thing is not. For over 20 years, anglers from Kitty Hawk to California and every shore in between have come to know one thing: that nothing says no to fish bites. So just stop with the fishing and get busy with the catching. Ask for Fish Bites or Fish Bites Fight Club lures or visit fishbites.com.
Come explore untouched Florida, where you'll step into holy sea cow and fish pristine waters where you'll reel in whoa. Come discover Crystal River with exciting adventures and incredible surprises everywhere. From exhilarating river adventures to scalloping in the Gulf to delicious fish to fork cuisine, this is the place where you can relax into Just a short drive from Tampa and Orlando is the amazing Discover Crystal River, Florida. Learn more at discovercrystalriverfl.com.
Service and reliability makes Alta Equipment the leader for all your construction equipment needs. With 7 locations across Florida and preferred brands like Volvo, Toro, TOC, Avant, and Roadtech, Alta has the equipment to get the job done.
When I need equipment, I trust Alta.
From agriculture to landscape to construction, Alta has you covered. For sales, rentals, service, and parts, see your local Alta Equipment dealer today or call them at 844-GO-TO-ALTA.
Welcome back, everyone. Let's jump right into it with your R&R Tackle Southeast Region Captain, Jimbo Thomas, who has all the snook catching secrets. So, Jimbo, let's hear him.
Hey, Bree, Dave, and Rick. And yes, we got some good fishing here in the R&R Tackle Southeast Region. First, we got snook, which are found in just about every body of water here in the region. All of the inlets hold big snook. They can also be found around the rock jetties, the beaches, around the bridges of the ICW, docks, piers, mangrove creeks, shorelines, and even in most of the freshwater lakes and canals throughout the region. Now, the fishing methods and the tackle, they vary depending on the depth of the water, the amount of current, and the type of structure you're fishing around. Now, for most snook fishing applications, light to medium spin or casting tackle with 30 to 50 pound fluoro leader will work. An R&R tackle flare hawk jig or a bass assassin jig head with a live shrimp or a rubber tail, those are old favorites, along with swimming and surface lures of all types and also all types of live baits. Now, when you're using live baits, you want to use circle hooks because a lot of these fish are catch and release. Now, there's been some nice slot and overslot snook being caught along the shadow lines of the bridges of the ICW from Boca Inlet north to Lake Worth Inlet. The best fishing has been on the top of the incoming tide. Now, live mullet have been one of the best baits if you're fishing up in the north end of the region. If you're fishing down in the south end, a mullet will work, as well as live shrimp and also topwater lures. The inlets have also been producing some good snook when you want to fish live baits in the evenings and also in the early mornings on the last of the incoming tide and the first 2 hours of the outgoing tide. Now, I got a picture here. This is Jane Thomas with an overslot Biscayne Bay snook. Now, also, staying inshore, the tarpon fishing has been good in most of the inlets and their adjacent beaches and also around the bridges of the ICW. Best bite's going to be in the early mornings and late afternoons and into the evenings on both the incoming and outgoing tides. You just need to have some moving water. Now, the bait of choice right now is a big live shrimp, crab, or a live mullet. Want to drift it through the inlets or around the bridge shadow lines on a 6.0 to 7.0 circle hook. Use an 80-pound mono leader. Also, you want to look for rolling fish or marks on your fish finder on both the north and south sides of the inlets. That's where the boat traffic is going to be lighter. And these tarpon have been in the 60 to 100-pound range. Now, moving offshore, sailfish have been coming through in pretty decent numbers the last few days. There's been some double-digit catches made in the last week, mainly when the conditions are good with north current and blue water. But those conditions, they change every single day. Now, the best fishing has been in 100 to 250 feet of water using live herrings, sardines, and goggle eyes fished under the kite. And we have had more than enough wind the last few days to keep those kites up. And if there isn't enough wind, you can always try slow trolling or drifting those live baits. Also, keep an eye out for any free-jumping sailfish. With it relatively calm, they're easy to spot. You can get lined up with them, get the baits out in front of them. There's a good chance that you're going to get a bite or even a multiple hookup. And then we're also starting to see some nice kingfish the last few days. A lot of these kings are being caught by trolling 3.5 drone spoons or pink sea witch in a strip bait combo behind a planer or a wire line outfit. You want to get that bait down a little deep. Anywhere from 80 to 150 feet of water is where we've been finding these kings. But the biggest kings, we've been catching them on live baits. A lot of the bites have been on the kites. And to avoid cutoffs, we've been adding an 18-inch piece of number 4 or number 5 5-wire leader to our rig, and it really hasn't affected our sailfish bites or any of the other bites for that matter. The biggest kings, some of the real big kings, are being caught on big live baits, such as a big blue runner or a Speedo. You want to double hook that big bait using some treble hooks. We like to use number 2 trebles and a wire leader, and then free line that bait behind the boat. Now, some of those baits like to stay on the surface. Some of them will go down deep when you free line them back. The baits that go down deep, they're going to get bit pretty quick generally. Now, I got another photo here. This is a 30-pound king that we caught on a sardine that he swam down deep and he got eaten by that big king. And this is caught by Eddie Willem, and he's from Puerto Rico. And his son there, he also caught a 25-pounder aboard the Thomas Flyer off Key Biscayne the other day.
Those are some beautiful fish, Jimbo. I got a real quick question for you. Downriggers or not?
I don't use downriggers. If I have to get something down deep, I'll put an egg sinker, slide it up the leader. I like to use a rubber band to hold that sinker up there and just drop it down to whatever depth we're marking fish or getting bites at. You know, we stagger them around.
Thanks, Jimbo.
Also, like I'd mentioned, if you hook the bait sometimes through the back, he'll swim down deep. You won't need to put a sinker on it, and he'll get down deep, and he'll be a little more free to swim around without dragging that weight around.
Thanks, Jimbo. Appreciate that tip. Appreciate it very much. Let's check out the hot spots for the southeast region right now. We've got the drifting with live shrimp, crabs, or mullet seems to be the best thing to do at your local inlet for tarpon bites. And then offshore, drift or kite fish with live baits in 80 to 200 feet of water for a mixed bag of sails, kingfish, and blackfin tuna.
All right, Jim, next up we have Captain Tommy Derringer live from his remote studio in the Alvey Reels Northeast region. Tell all of our snook lovers some good news, Tommy.
I got some great news, Brie, and hey, Jim, hey, Dave.
Hey.
You know, guys, the Alvey Sidecast Reels Northeast region, we're probably not really well known for our snook fishing, but I tell you what, we've had some really great snook fishing here lately. You know, after the really mild winters that we've had over the last decade or so, the snook have really started to thrive in my region, and now we have a pretty good population of them, especially in the south end of my region. Now, the more consistent snook fishing is happening from Palm Coast down to Daytona, and I've had some great reports coming in from the Flagler Beach and Tomoka areas. On the warmer days, those snook, they're up shallow, they're chasing shrimp in the small creeks and canals first thing in the morning. You could toss a topwater plug early and at dusk, and then a saltwater assassin elite shiner, especially in that pearl color during the day when that sun is a little higher. Now, if that's not your thing, an extra large free-lined live shrimp is gonna work really well. Now, the nighttime snook fishing has been really great as well, from Palm Coast all the way down to Ponce Inlet. You can target the lighted docks and bridges when the tide is moving with a diving plug or a live shrimp or a finger mullet. Now, there's lots of smaller snook under those lights, but there's some bruisers mixed in there as well, especially around some of the bigger bridges. Now, there's also a good snook population in Jacksonville, all the way up in Jacksonville and in St. Augustine. There's some key creeks like Pablo Creek, San Sebastian, and Pellicer Creek that hold snook, but there's also quite a few freshwater lakes and golf course ponds that hold those snook as well. Look for some bigger snook to show up at the St. Augustine and Matanzas and Ponce as well this summer during the mullet run and into the early fall. Now, I've got a picture here. I've got a couple pictures. The first one is my buddy Eddie Kabler with a big Jacksonville snook he caught in the St. Johns River. Eddie really has those Jacksonville snook dialed in. Now, the next picture, this is Mitchell Davis with his very first snook that he caught with me last week in Palm Coast, and Mitchell was super stoked to catch that snook. Now,
love it.
Staying inshore, we have an incoming tide early in the morning this weekend, so the water's going to be up first thing. That's a perfect time to toss a topwater plug like a Berkeley drift walker along the grass lines and the oyster bars. Now, the mullet, they've been getting thicker by the day, and we've just been looking for concentrations of those smaller finger mullet. There's not a ton of those around just yet, but just look for those smaller ones, especially the ones that look nervous, which means they're going to be jumping or skipping around a little more than usual. Those schools of bait, those are going to be the ones that those redfish are shadowing. Just toss your plug past the school of bait, then work it along the edges of those schools. You know, but don't be surprised if there's a big trout hanging there as well, especially this time of year. Now, we also have a good afternoon low tide, so we can expect those redfish to be bunched up again in the creek holes and along the ICW on the edges of the flats. Live and cut mullet or cut blue crab, those have been my go-to baits for those afternoon fish. And I've got another picture. This is Porter Browdy with a really nice redfish he caught fishing around those schools of mullet last week. Now moving offshore, you know, it's a mixed bag out there. I spoke to Captain Jason Hadges from jhookfishingcharters.com, and he tells me there's a really good mixed bag of fish to be had offshore while trolling around this weekend. Now, Jason said he's been catching a couple of wahoo on just about every trip, as well as a good mix of blackfins, sailfish, and even a few mahi are starting to show up. Now, he's trolling a naked ballyhoo and told me that you really want to look for some clean water in that 69-degree or above range. He said that's not necessarily going to be all the way out to the Gulf Stream, and he's been finding it that temperature inshore on some of the days he's been out recently. Now, Jason also said to look for the mahi to start to show in better numbers over the next couple of weeks as things continue to warm up. And I've got another picture. This is Preston Sloan and Tom McLean with a couple of really nice wahoo that they caught with Captain Jason aboard the J-Hook. Now, lastly, you know, I just wanted to give more of a forecast and a report on the cobia, and I'm sure, Jim, you can relate to this. A lot of people are asking about the cobia showing up along the beaches. I've had a few reports of them showing up on the rays in the very far south end of the region, but I think it's still going to be a couple of weeks before we get our push of fish and manta rays coming through our region. I would just keep an eye on that beach water temperature. When it gets close to about 70 degrees, that's when it's time to get out there and take a look.
Most definitely, Tommy. Thanks a lot. We appreciate that great report. We're going to take it from here with your strike zone hotspots for the Northeast region.
Bye, Tommy.
Tommy says, check out the schools of mullet, because that's where you're going to want to be throwing your topwater plugs early in the morning for redfish and trout, and then offshore, mixed bag of wahoo, blackfins, and mahi on the troll. Look for clean water in 69 degrees or higher throughout the region, and you should find some of those fish.
And if you're in the Northeast region or planning on traveling there, make sure you join Rick and I at the Jacksonville Boat Show, April 17th and 18th, where we'll be hanging out, doing some fun seminars, and it's going to be a good time. It's going to be a boat show.
Are you going to throw a cast net, or what are you going to do?
I might throw a cast net or two. Yeah, I'm doing that.
Yeah.
It's my favorite thing to do, what can I say? But for more info and tickets, head over to boatjacks.com, and we hope to see you there. But Jim, it's that time in the show where I get super excited because we have one more region left, which means we're that much closer to the weekend and catching some good memories.
Exactly.
So anglers, stick around for the Alto Equipment Keys region, and we'll be right back.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Fenwick. The Florida Keys and Key West. Come as you are. The IGFA. Fish for the World. Noble Air Charters. Raising the bar yet again. Sportsman's Adventures with Captain Rick Murphy. Fishing for adventure. Real Legends. Everything you need to live life local. And Taco Marine. Troll the edge.
It's one of the most ancient forms of hide and seek known to man. And nobody knows how to play the fishing game better than the backcountry guides and offshore captains of the Florida Keys and Key West. Ready or not, here we come.
At Florida Coast Equipment, we understand you don't work banker's hours, so neither do we. You have a business to run, you have a family to feed, and you need your machine up and running. So our service team and our parts department will be there. If that means we have to stay late, we'll do it. If we have to start early, we'll do it. Because at the end of the day, you want equipment you can depend on and people you can trust, and we have a service team that will be there to service you.
Remember the glory days of gasoline? It's just not made the same anymore.
Kick your gas into gear with STARTRON. Pump up the performance in all of your engines. Cure the problems of ethanol with the power of enzymes. And maximize your mileage every time you drive. Kickstart your engines with STARTRON.
I'm Captain Rick Murphy, and I'm a life member of CCA. Why am I so involved with CCA, you ask? Because I want our fisheries to be in better shape for my kids and their kids. CCA is working to ensure the future of recreational fisheries and the rights of recreational anglers. The future of fishing starts today with you. How do you want to leave things with your kids? If you're like me, you'll want to make the right choice and go to joinccaflorida.com right now.
Today's Power Pole tip is about the new Charge Marine Power Station. After the charge is installed in your boat, the key thing to do is to log into the Sea Monster app and let the Charge know what type of batteries you're working with. The Charge is designed to work with gel, lead acid, AGM, even lithium batteries, but the key is letting it know what you got in the boat. So for our trolling motor batteries in this Pathfinder, we've got 2 Odyssey trolling motor batteries. They're big, deep cycle batteries that last all day long. I want to go into the Sea Monster app and let it know exactly how much reserve capacity is in those batteries, and Charge is going to optimize and charge those to the fullest. But for our cranking battery, we've got a different chemistry. It's a lead acid. We will do the drop down and let the Charge know we're working with the lead acid battery on the cranking side, how much reserve capacity is in that, and the Charge is going to optimize a different battery type for your outboard. For more information, go to powerpole.com, and that's your tip of the week.
All right, the Alto Equipment Keys region is a perfect place to hook up to a snook. So let's hear how Captain Randy Tao is going to help us achieve that this weekend, shall we, Jim?
I'm looking forward to it.
Hey, good evening, fish fans. You know, here in the Alta Construction Equipment region, snook is a big species for guys to go after, whether it's in the backcountry or around the bridges. And there's a lot of ways you can catch a snook. You can catch them on artificial, you can catch them on a fly rod, you can catch them on bait. So there's a number of different ways. There's no one way to do it. And that's what's interesting about snook fishing. Everybody has a passion for doing it a little bit different, and that makes it pretty nice. The conditions right now have been a little more in favor of the sight fishing guys and the bridge guys, only because the backcountry has been a little muddy back there with the wind and the conditions. But guys are finding some snook locally around the Upper Keys bridges, and they're also finding them in some shallow water up around Flamingo area, especially on those higher tides where you can get up on some of the ridges in there that normally don't have any water on them. And you can certainly throw a spoon or a soft plastic. Guys are catching them on that. I'm a bait guy. I love fishing a jig head with either a pilchard or a pinfish this time of year. And a lot of times that's going to yield me a slot-sized snook. And I've actually got a picture of a jumbo snook caught by Michelle McBride. She was up on top of the flats sight casting to this monster snook.
Go, Michelle.
Beautiful fish.
The trout fishing has been pretty steady. You know, we do a lot of that through the winter, and sometimes it's your go-to. And sometimes they can be on the small side, sometimes on the big side, but usually they're just fun to bend the rod and catch. Now, a soft plastic, a popping cork with a shrimp is probably as good as it gets right there. And, you know, again, the watercolor in the backcountry has been pretty muddy, so it's hard to really single out the areas that have mullet muds in them. So a lot of the guys are fishing channel edges, and they're fishing kind of known spots where that water's coming off the flats, and they get up on the edge of it, stake up, and start blind casting, and there's been some real nice trout. I've got a photo of Captain Donnie Bembo with skinsandfins.com here in Islamorada with his angler, Ansel, with his trout.
Fun time. Such a fun time getting the kids out. I love it.
Yellowtails, you know, I love bottom fishing, and sometimes the yellowtails don't cooperate, sometimes they do. And the last few weeks, there's been some really big yellowtails around, especially in that 90-foot. So really what you're looking for is a condition where the water's moving, that's key, and you want to anchor down and start chumming. And lately there has been no ballyhoos, so you want to bring bait with you to fish with. Normally the ballyhoo will come up after a little bit, but I believe they have been taken out in the area. So bring bait with you and start chumming. Be patient. You know, these fish are on the 3 to 5 pound range. So, you know, you want to have at least 12-pound line on your reels, and you want to be able to not drift your bait back very far if you can. The further you get your bait back, the more likely a shark's going to get it. So you really want to be patient. Let those fish get up closer to the boat and fish them, and you'll catch a lot more. I've got a photo of young Connor with his Alamaradas yellowtail he caught just the other day.
Iconic Keys picture right there.
That is.
Well, mutton snapper. This is interesting. You catch them on the bay side, you catch them on the patch reach, you catch them in deep water, and there's a lot of areas where mutton snappers get. I love catching mutton snappers, actually, and there's some tricks to it. A live ballyhoo, cigar minnow, or a pilchard is a great bait. Now, I like to get out in the deeper water and drift around, so I'm looking for a condition that I can cover ground and drift over some hard bottom and pick away at the mutton snappers. They don't really school up like some fish, but they'll be in an area and you might catch quite a few, but they're kind of spread out. So if you're able to move around and fish with your bait near the bottom, just above the bottom, braided line's going to be a big help for you. And you want to stay as vertical as you can when you're drifting, and that way you can see when you get a bite and do something about it. Now, I've got a picture with Katie, and this is an interesting photo. There's a bridge in the background. This was a 15-pound mutton snapper we caught the other day while tarpon fishing with a mullet on the bottom of the channel.
Well, that's cool.
You know, that's the thing about fishing in the Keys. You never know what's going to bite.
I know.
Randy, thanks a lot for that great report from the Keys. I'm going to take your hot spots from here, and we really appreciate all of the knowledge that he imparts every single week. You know what? Inshore, tarpon are showing up and more around the bridges. Use live mullet from Donald's. It makes it easy. That way you don't have to go try and catch it yourself. Or offshore, yellowtail snapper, and that's, like you said, that's an iconic fish in the Keys. 70 to 90 foot reefs, have to have moving water, start that chum, and be patient.
And it's fun to do with the family too. All levels of anglers can
Everybody
catch
can catch them.
All right, Jim. Well, I think we've done it. All 9 regions briefed and ready to reel something fun in this weekend. But stay with us a little longer so we can tell you what's on our species agenda for next week right here on the Florida Insider
Fishing Report.
Oh, we'll be right back. Look at you.
Enjoy the water and your single-engine boat even more with the incredible control of Helmmaster EX. This award-winning system features the first single-engine joystick with digital electric steering and new autopilot capability. Helmmaster EX packs the power of world-class control and automation that is changing the single and multi-engine boating experience forever. See Helmmaster EX in action at a Yamaha Outboard dealer or visit YamahaOutboards.com.
We are for those who know that opportunity is nothing without preparation, those who know that the right gear can make or break a day. Born out of a need for reliability, tested and proven on the Miss Brit Charter fleet. From terminal tackle to all your live bait needs, whether you're fishing for fun or looking to win a tournament, R&R Tackle has what you need to stay ready.
Guys, make sure you tune in next week because we are talking about cobia. Am I right? Am I right?
Hope so.
Am I right?
You better hope you're right.
No, I'm right. We're
You're
talking
right.
about cobia. Well, Jim, thank you so much for filling in today. You made our jobs very easy.
Yes, you did.
You have hosting chops. So what do you do when you don't fish? You have a fishing radio show, don't you?
I do have a fishing radio show.
All right.
Cobia is coming to our region right now, so next week's going to be exciting.
Next week. Bye.